frequently as possible.
What we're saying is that she's going to be
Congratulations. Thank you.
her daughter flies down.
I'm not sure if we are streaming yet, but if we are, to anyone who is here online, I got the signal from on high to wait another minute or two. We'll start in just a few moments. That would be useful. Page 128. Ine matovu manayim she'erachim gam yachad. Ine matovu manayim she'erachim gam yachad. Ine matov she'erachim gam yachad. Ine matov she'erachim gam yachad. Ine matovu manayim she'erachim gam yachad. Ine matovu manayim she'erachim gam yachad. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Michael Feshbach. I am without additional designated cantorial musical support tonight, and therefore you're all elected, but all evidence is already that you are up to the task. The only issue is that those who are listening online will only be able to hear me and not the rest of you. So I'll try to sing more softly. You'll try to be heard by that microphone and sing more loudly and with more energy and vigor, and we will welcome Shabbat in a way which does not dishonor God or anybody's ears, we hope. A warm welcome to the Wood family, the Resnicks as well, on this occasion of the Erev Bar Mitzvah of Tyler Wood tomorrow morning. We welcome Shabbat with psalms and songs. Even us, even here, even in this setting, we turn to page 130 and 131. This whole section of psalms, which breathed new life into the Friday night service in Jewish tradition, was introduced in Safat in the north of Israel in the 16th century. That is where the custom began of adding these psalms, many of which have references to nature. And so this summer, when 3 times we will be off-site on Friday nights, once at my house, and once in July and once in August at the beach, and we are singing and praising God outside and amidst nature, we are stepping back in time, we are stepping back in history to the origin of the energy of the Friday night service. We begin with Psalm 95 and Psalm 96. On pages 130 and 131, Lechun Ranana and Shiru Ladonai. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai, sing unto God a new song. Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana, Ladonai. Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana. Letzori shenu nekad hafanav betoda. Navia, Navia, Letzori Ishenu, Bizmirot Lachialo, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena, Adonai, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena. Page 131. Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruchu Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Baruchu Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena, Ladonai, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena, Lechu Leranena, Ladonai. From Psalm 99 on page 135. The last paragraph in Hebrew, the words mean, exalt Adonai our God and bow toward God's holy hill. Romanu. Romanu Adonai Eloheinu ve'nishtachanu lehar kodesho. Romanu Adonai Eloheinu ve'nishtachanu lehar kodesho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romanu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romanu. Romanu Adonai Eloheinu ve'nishtachanu lehar kodesho. Romanu Adonai Eloheinu ve'nishtachanu lehar kodesho. Pages 138 and 139. There are almost, not quite, but almost as many settings of Lecha Dodi as there are of Adon Olam. Julie and I were discussing this earlier, and at some point we'll do a throwback service to Reform Judaism the way it really, really, really used to be. Lecha Dodi likrat kala. Right, but I can't pull that off even with any of the verses. So her advice was choose the one which is the most well-known tonight, at least the most well-known here. So the Taubman setting, stanzas 1, 2, 5, and 9. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat Kabbalat. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat Kabbalat. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Yishme'anu el ha'miyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shaderi, Kevod Adonai Alayim, Milad Lechadodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat Kabbalat, Lechadodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat Kabbalat, Holy V'Shalom, Ateret Allah, Gam B'Simcha, U'V'Tzola, Tov Emunei Am Zidula, Holy Chala, Chadodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat Kabbalat, Chadodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat Kabbalat. Later tonight, I'm going to speak about one aspect of looking at human ethics and what it is to mean it means to be a human being in ways that are different between Jews and Christians. But there are other differences as well. There are actually differences between Jewish and American Christian weddings, some of which you run into in the strangest places. Did you know that in a Jewish wedding and in an American Christian wedding, the bride stands in a different place? You knew that. Did anybody else know that? In an American Christian wedding, the bride is on the, as you're looking at them, I'm terrible with rights and left.
I don't know. On the left, I'm
Yeah, well, the opposite of the way it is in a Jewish wedding.
the bride's on the right.
The bride, as
You're
the
looking.
left, as you're looking at her, as I'm looking at her, I think. So that is not the only difference between weddings. It is not a current custom in Jewish life to stand up as the bride comes down the aisle. It is an American Christian custom. But here's something strange. What?
We did. Yeah, I see it a lot.
Well,
Jewish weddings.
it was a Jewish custom once. How do you know that? Because of what we just did, right? What are we doing? The last stanza of Chadodi, we rise and we are welcoming the Sabbath bride. It is welcoming a bride. So the custom was once Jewish custom, at least in Sephardic circles.
It's a jacket.
Jacket.
There you go.
This is being broadcast for all eternity. Thanks. In Maryland, there was somebody in the congregation who would always go. But he was like crazy at the B'nai Mitzvah, right? He'd come up and he'd fix it for all the bar mitzvahs whenever they slightly off. And you should have seen him at confirmation. He did it 16 or 30 kids, like evening the Tali Tot out. Okay, I'm getting in trouble by speaking too much, so let's jump to, I was going to read one of the Psalms, but let's go to page 142. Familiar from Shabbat dinner tables all around the world. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Olechem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi bottom, led by Jacob.
Waking from his sleep, Jacob said, "Truly Adonai is in this place, and I did not know it." He was awestruck and said, "How awe-inspiring is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven."
It's one of the most important paragraphs in the entire Siddur, but I did this because of your name. We turn to Chetzi Kaddish, page 144. Please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemecha Yalma tivrach tirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayei kol v'yomechol u'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael v'gala v'gala u'vizman karim v'yemeru Birchata v'shirata tushvechata v'nechemata ta'amiram yalma v'imenu Baruchu et Adonai ha'mevorach Baruch Adonai ha'mevorach le'olam va'ed Baruch Adonai ha'mevorach le'olam va'ed. 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'aviv aravim ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים ומשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו בורא יום ולילה כולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרבים. The bottom of 150 together. Everlasting love you offered mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto,
Please be seated.
Asher Oseitem Me'eretz Mitzrayim V'yot Lachem Elohim Amin Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history together, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternal Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei feled, nora tehilot osei feled, malchut elotecha ra'u alecha, bokei ayam lifnei Miriam, Ze'elianu ve'amru, Adonai lo, Adonai lo, le'olam va'ed. Amarti fad Adonai et Yaakov, u'ga'at mimenu baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. The bottom of page 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter, the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai. Haporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru B'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, Lasot et HaShabbat, Le'toret HaBerit Olam. V'shamru B'nei Yisrael Vayom hashvi, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, Lasot et HaShabbat, the Tefillah, beginning on page 164. Please rise. Adonai Sefatika Uvia Nitanilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch Bottom of page 180. Ose shalom v'molav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, Yah Israel. Please be seated. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov V'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah V'yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim ha'eleh. O God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, send your blessing and healing, your comfort and hope to the following of our friends: Pam Cinderbrand, Mona Ellis, Murray Savar, Chaim Zanville ben Chaya Rivka, Melinda Jacobs. Any other names in the prayer for healing?
Dan Hine, Cheryl Gorman,
Mary Fisher,
Betsy Walker, Renee Ferrari, David Jim.
Alan Rosenfield. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh Cholim. We praise you, O God, who helps us heal, who brings us comfort. As I will do on many days, as I will say in many ways, my remarks tonight are really about the intersection of me and we. A perennial theme in religious life, in the world around us, between self and service, between looking inward and connecting with others, between the individual and the group. It is not that there is anything wrong with focusing on our own needs, our own drives, our own desire. In fact, in the following story, you see that this is one of the ways in which Judaism and Christianity are indeed quite different. And to some extent, if the very nature of what it means to be a human being is different in Christianity and Christian ethics than it is in Judaism and Jewish ethics. It's very, very hard. I know people were being polite when they said Judeo-Christian ethic. But to me, it's a nonsense term. They may have meant it to be nice, to be inclusive, to say, I know there's not just Christians here. But in fact, how do you have an ethic that is the same when what it means to be a human being is seen differently in Judaism and Christianity? As an oversimplification, in Christianity, we are born inherently flawed. We are born, whatever original sin means, and it's a very complicated concept, we are born in need of God's grace to achieve salvation. That is a view of Christianity, of human beings, of human nature, that is common in both Catholicism and Protestantism, where the two major branches of Christianity disagree with one another. How do you achieve salvation? In Protestantism, it is by faith alone, and in Catholicism, good deeds count a little bit. It is deeds and faith together. But in any event, in Protestantism and Christianity, in Catholicism, in all branches of Christianity, the view of human nature is that we are born flawed and in need of God and God's love and God's grace to achieve salvation. That is not the Jewish... Now, some Jews know that that's not the Jewish view. And they say, therefore, if Christianity says that we're born flawed, and then they jump to what they think is the opposite, which is to say that we're born inherently what? Good, which is not the correct opposite, right? What's the actual opposite of saying that we're born flawed? To say that we're born what? Neutral. We are born a tabula rasa. We are born a blank slate. In Jewish tradition, what does it mean to be a human being? To have an impulse to do good and an impulse to do evil. But what is the Yetzer Hara? What is the impulse to do evil? It's a bad translation, evil. Even though it says Yetzer Hara, which means bad or evil. There's a story in the Talmud of a group of rabbis who want to improve the world. And so they want to get together and they want to some extent, their whole desire to have an impact like this on the world. Of the Yetzer Hara, but that's a way in which the story undermines itself. They want to get rid of the Yetzer Hara. And because these are very big deal rabbis, and really very powerful rabbis, they actually get together, they capture the Yetzer Hara. They capture the impulse to do evil. And they kill it. And they pat themselves on the back. And they think very highly of themselves. And they go out into the world, and what do they behold? No businesses are started. No buildings are built. No babies are born. From which they realize that the impulse to do evil is not evil. It is the instinct, the drive, what Freud might have called the id. It is not inherently evil. It is not to be slain. It is not to be vanquished. It is to be channeled. And so the impulse towards self, the use of our own desires, our own ego, the fact that we may want things is not in and of itself the problem. The problem is the balance. As Tyler can tell you, this is a very complicated Torah portion. We have reached Parashat Korach, which details the most direct challenge and rebellion against Moses and Aaron and their leadership in the entire Torah. Now, part of what makes this so complicated, and if you listen carefully to his speech tomorrow, he wove his way through this. I actually think that these were originally different stories, the rebellion of Korach and the rebellion of Dotan and Aviram. One was against the priestly privileges of Aaron, and one was against the leadership of Moses. and the stories are woven together as if it is one episode. But whatever the case may be, it is quite clear with echoes from today's headlines. I mean, all you have to do is look at the functioning of the United States People's House, the House of Representatives, and their behavior over the past week, to have a sense of what can happen when you confuse the idea of power for yourself versus serving the people and serving others. But in this complicated story of rebellion against Aaron and Moses, at the very opening of the portion, we have a grammatical problem. And a grammatical problem in the Torah is an opportunity to the Talmud, to the rabbis of the Talmud. It's an opportunity to make a point. So here is the grammatical problem. The grammatical problem is first that I'm on the wrong page. That's one. Now Korach, son of Itzar, son of Kohat, son of Levi, along with Datan and Aviram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Pelet, descendants of Reuben, took, singular, himself. What's the problem? You have all of these rebels. That called for a verb in the plural. But the verb is in the singular. Now, sometimes the rabbis of the Talmud, if the context was a positive context, they would use this for shevach, they would use this for praise, right? And they would say, look, even though we are a different group of people, when we are singular in purpose, it uses, but that's not what's going on here. This is the story of a rebellion. And so they derive a very different lesson. From Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer, who lived in the 19th century, you get the following. Why is the verb took referring to what, this isn't in the Talmud, but it's based on a Talmudic teaching. Why is the verb took referring to what Korach, Datan, and Aviram all did, written in the singular and not in the plural? Because each and every one of them was in this battle only for himself. This is the test, and it is not always easy to tell. My brother-in-law wrote his thesis in philosophy, and then it was published as a book called The Limits of Morality, in which he makes the basic, I told him I was waiting for the movie to come out, in which he makes the basic argument that one should be either entirely selfish or entirely selfless, but that to be balancing the two is an inconsistent and incoherent position. My brother-in-law is brilliant. This is a philosophical masterpiece, and I'm not sure that he practices this in practice either. It's widely considered a very important work, by the way, in American philosophy today, his initial book. The me and the we, and how do you tell? You don't need to look at national headlines. Tyler, in fact, has a very good example in his speech tomorrow, so please come and be part of tomorrow's service and listen to Tyler as he is, and what I call our B'nai Mitzvah, they are teachers of Torah and leaders of prayer, so he is truly a teacher of Torah in his sports example tomorrow that he is going to use on this very topic, the boundary between the me and the we. And that is an important question, I think, to ask ourselves. What are we in it for? There are those who will say to rabbis, I've heard it here, other rabbis have heard it in other congregations, I've heard it in other places too, oh, don't be political. Martin Buber, who I will refer to again in a few minutes, said, the people of the Bible were sinners like ourselves, but there was one sin they did not commit, our arch sin. They did not dare abrogate God and say to God, up until this point, you are sovereign, But beyond this is the boundary of science or society or the politics or the state. The problem with saying don't be political is as obvious as the insight of the early feminist movement to say that the personal is political and the political is personal. What is politics? Politics is the negotiation of power. And if it is in between a husband and a wife, or a couple who are dating, or families who are trying to decide where to go to dinner, or a congregation and another congregation, or one community in the city and the suburbs, or international actors, it is the same basic human act. Politics is the negotiation of power. And the tradition, the faith tradition, our spiritual tradition, Judaism, our religion, has a tremendous amount to say about the sanctification of power, about how we should make sure, amongst other things, to check ourselves. Vayikach korach, the singular, and he took. Is it for me or is it for we? How are we in this? What are we in this for? Do we grab or do we serve? Do we lead? And if we are leading, for what purpose are we leading? Is it the we or the me? To come back to Buber, whom I'm referring to twice tonight, and I will tell you that when I was first a rabbi, just ordained 30 years ago, after about 2 months as a rabbi, Julie pulled me aside when I was getting ready to start writing a sermon that week and said, "You've got to stop referring to Martin Buber in every single sermon." And I've barely referred to Buber since. But it's a pity, because Buber was unbelievably ahead of his time in so many ways. The central philosophy that Buber is known for was his book Ich, who speaks German? I, ich, und du. I and you. It's translated into English as I and thou, but thou is far more formal. By the way, did you hear that Vice President Pence made a funny joke? He said, my pronouns are thou and thine. That was actually funny. I and thou sounds more formal than this is thou. But the basic idea is this. Buber says you have two kinds of relationships in this world. And he's not saying that you can just live in just one and not the other. There are times when you are in line to check out with groceries and you are late to get to something important, and there are 6 people in line ahead of you, and it's going very slowly, and then when you finally get up there, the Pekida, the checkout person, what do you cashier, gets a and her boyfriend breaks up with her on the phone, and she bursts out crying, and she runs away. I really don't care. I want to get out of the store. By the way, Israel is a country full of I-thou relationships, and they would care, and everybody would turn around and try to console her and put their arms around her. I just want to get out of the... There are times in our lives when we use other people, and that's okay. I'm using her to get out of the store, right? But the other kind of relationship is an I and thou. It's not a me. It's not even just a we, but it's somehow in between. Sometimes an I-thou relationship, a deep relationship, sometimes it'll be about you, sometimes it'll be about the other person, sometimes it'll be about it's the balance between the two, the true understanding of where another person is coming from. That's needed in politics, that's needed in spousal relationships, that's needed between countries, that's needed between business partners. It's not you can't just live at the I and thou where nothing will ever get done. But somehow in the space between the me and the we, the self and the other, That is where holiness lives, and that is where God is found. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to everybody that's here this evening and to those that are watching from home. Sometimes when I come up here to make the announcements and I have to follow a sermon like that, I feel the words that I have to say are very trite.
No, you need the idea. You need the directions of where we're going in order to get there, right?
Thank you. Would like to wish Mazel Tov to Tyler Wood. There he is. He moved his seat tomorrow when he has his bar mitzvah, and to wish well to his family. And I know his grandparents are here. And on behalf of Beth Israel, we wish you all a Mazel Tov. If anyone in here does not know, Jill Wood, the mother, is one of our vice presidents of the congregation. And so, again, we wish you all a beautiful day tomorrow. And we thank you. The beam of flowers in front of the pulpit here are from the Wood family. Please join us following services for candles and Kiddush in the Weiss lobby as soon as services are over. Tomorrow morning there will not be Saturday morning study. However, there will be Shabbat services again at 10:30 in the sanctuary when we will celebrate Tyler's bar mitzvah. Next Friday, services will be at 5:30. And mark your calendars for Shabbat services on Friday, July the 7th at 5:30, when we will officially welcome Cantor Rhoda Harrison to Beth Israel. We will also recognize our high school and college graduates, and we will have a festive onig to follow that evening. On July the 14th, we have a very special service, and it will be at Rabbi Feshbach and Julie Novik's house. They are in Egg Harbor Township. Services will be still at 5:30. It is a pool party and a dinner, a Shabbat dinner. The dinner is to be dairy only. If there is something you would like to make and bring, please let the office know.
Potluck.
Potluck. It is potluck. Yes, that's why we ask you to bring something. And it should be a very lovely evening, and we thank Rabbi and Julie for offering their beautiful home to us. And also we will be having, I keep announcing, it's far away, I don't want to wish the summer away, but we do have 2 beach services coming up, one in July the 21st. They are always at 5:30 on Huntington Avenue Beach in Margate, and it's a beautiful service, so we look forward to having Shabbat there on the beach. And with that, I wish everyone Shabbat Shalom. I know you can't hear him, but I don't know if the mic's picking up for them at home. He said what I said was important too.
And by the way, to those of you who come on Shabbat mornings, we are beginning Shabbat morning services and study again on July 1st, July 8th, July 15th, we're for their scholar in residence that morning, and then the other 2 in July as well. So 4 out of the 5 Saturday mornings in July we will be here, and hopefully start up again with that wonderful experience. Those of you who are not here or not used to being here for the Saturday morning study at 9:15 and service at 10:30, it's really an important and powerful, and I think uplifting, I say this myself, Bennett leads, so that's sometimes really great service and study. Shabbat Shalom. We ask the Wood and Resnick family, well, the Woods, to come forward for now to help with the ark doors as we continue with Aleinu. Aleinu is on the bottom of page 586, and as they open the ark doors, please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, Latei Kula Yosef Reshi, Shelo Sanu Kivye Aratso, Velo Samanu Kivishmachot Hadama, Shelo Samkakenu Kanem, Velo Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Vanachnu Honim, Unishavim Umonim, Lefnei Melech, Malkei Amlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we close the ark doors, page 588. Shehu Notesh Shamayim V'Yosef Haaretz, U'Moshav Yikaro B'Shamayim Nimao, U'Shchina Tuzo, Be'Yovhei Me'Elohim, U'Eloheinu Eino, Emet Malkeinu Efesulato, Kakatu V'Torato, V'yadata hayom V'hashevota El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu HaElohim, B'Shamayim Mima'al, Ve'al haaretz mitachat ein od. 591. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, hayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother, your sister walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give to them what you want to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children who need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. We remember at this time those of our congregation's beloved whose yahrzeit occurs on this Shabbat. Benjamin Bacharach, Leonard Bernstein, Jenny Beagle-Eisen, David Blaw, Sarah Blumstein, Anna Kopsky, Elaine Cousins, Jeanette Cummings, Marvin Davidson, Minnie Dreischboom, Lena Fisher, Rabbi Henry Fisher, Louis Goldstein, Ruth Greenberg, Homer Hillelson, Helen Katz, Hilda Konigsberg-Levine, Teresa Lowy, Ray Minsky, Jeanette Miller, Brina Nichols, Bluma Purnell, Florence Quinn, Claire Radin, Abraham Rosenberg, Betsy Rubin, Paul Samuelson, Erwin Sanson, Faye Schuler, Frank Seichik, Joseph Shapiro, Duncan, Ben Stein, Ethel Weinstein, Martin Wood. During this period of Shloshim, the 30 days following his death, we mentioned the names of B. Robert Anderson. Is there anyone else here to say Kaddish for someone whose name I did not mention, or any of the names I may have mispronounced? The memories of all of our loved ones are with us. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn now to page 598. And as is the tradition in most Reformed synagogues, we rise as a congregation as a whole for Kaddish Yatom, for the mourner's Kaddish itself. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, V'Alma Divrach V'Rotei V'Yamlich Malchutei B'Chaye Chol V'Yom Echol V'Chaye B'Chol Beit Yisrael B'Agalav B'Zman Kariv Imru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabam V'Rach Le'Olam Olmei Almaya Yitparach V'Yishtabach V'Yitpa'ar V'Yitromam V'Yitnaseh V'Yitadar V'Yitarlev V'Yitalal Shmei V'Kudusha V'Reichu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata V'Shirata V'Nechmata Damiran Alma V'Imru Amen Yehei Shmama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chayim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen Oseh Shalom Nimromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn in our congregation and wherever they may be, all those who are suffering the pain of loss everywhere, and together let us say, Amen. We are going to continue in a moment as Tyler and his brother and his parents lead us in candles and kiddush and motzi. But before we do that, I am violating my wife's advice just for this one moment, briefly, despite our I-thou relationship. Page 653, she advised me choose things that people know. This you may know a little bit less, but I want us to get to know it, even with my leading it, with the beach service coming up. These are the words that were written by Hannah Senesh, you know, the poet paratrooper who went back into England and into Europe during World War II. She's from Hungary originally. She had escaped, built a new life in what was then Palestine. This song is originally called Halicha Caesarea, which is means the walk, the way, the route to Caesarea. Caesarea, beautiful ancient Roman ruins, which today has Israel's major and only professional quality golf course. So for South Jersey, I thought I'd mention that here. She also wrote words that were smuggled back out of Europe the one time when she parachuted in to free other people and was caught and then put to death in Europe. Hannah Senesh wrote Eli Eli. We sing in Hebrew and in English. Eli, Eli, Shelo Yigamer Le'olam, Hachol Ve'ayam, V'yishlu Shel Hamayim, V'rak Hashamayim, Tfilat Ha'adam. Repeat the Hebrew first. Hachol Ve'ayam, V'yishlu Shel Hamayim, V'rak Hashamayim, Tfilat Ha'adam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea. Think of Margate. The rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. Shabbat Shalom. And please join us for candles, kiddush, and motzi. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's go light candles.